Hello, I am Nicci Ahrens, and on behalf of Kim Perkins and myself, I am presenting our video on the cognitive conceptual model. Here's a brief outline of what I'll be going over. Um, there are some cognitive characteristics related to students with EBD. There are many um, cognitive interventions that you can use for students with learning disabilities or developmental disabilities that are extremely effective. However, we have chosen to focus our presentation on strictly students with EBD and how to um, kind of reduce behaviors and teach positive self-talk, that sort of thing. Intellectually, these students range from mental retardation to gifted and talented. They frequently perform below grade level. They also have characteristics of learning disability as well as ADHD. These students are believed to also have personality and cognitive deficits. They have underdeveloped impulse control. And there also may be external factors that act as barriers to their socially appropriate development. So what is the cognitive model? The cognitive model is the idea that behavior is influenced by the way we think. Flawed behaviors stem from flawed thoughts, perceptions, and beliefs. So in order to change our behavior, we must change our way of thinking. Henry Ford had a great quote related to this: whether you think you can or think you can't, you are right. There's Dr. Spock telling you that your reasoning is illogical. The history of cognitive learning theories dates back to Jean Piaget and Lev Vygotsky. If you remember from Ed Psych, if you've taken that class yet, Piaget theorized that behaviors are controlled through mental organizations called schemas, and Vygotsky's theory involved how social interactions lead to the development of a child's thoughts and behaviors. Both of these men, their theories only revolved around how children specifically develop and learn. At the core, they both postulated that thoughts led to behaviors, and thus changing thoughts, schemas, social interactions will then change behaviors. Aaron Beck took those theories and developed the cognitive behavior therapy, which is what cognitive behavior interventions are based on. His idea is that everyone has automatic thoughts. Some of these thoughts are helpful and some are not. So using CBT, we're taught to identify and evaluate the thoughts to help us think more realistically. When you're going through the PowerPoint yourself, please watch this video. This is Aaron Beck discussing how he discovered automatic thoughts. If the video won't play for whatever reason, there is a direct link to lead to it. I highly suggest watching it. Very rarely do you get to actually see somebody who's come up with a theory or a practice and actually watch them discuss how they came up with it. So it's kind of a fun video to watch. So to assist students with EBD using this model, we use what are called cognitive behavior interventions, or CBIs. According to our text, CBIs have three basic assumptions. All behavior comes from cognitive events. Changes in cognitive events can change behaviors, and all students and teachers are active participants in learning. The main idea or technique used in CBIs are self-management techniques. Those self-management techniques are self-monitoring, self-evaluation, and self-reinforcement. Again, when you're going through the PowerPoint, there's another video. This one I wish I could take credit for making, but I did not. I found this on YouTube. Somebody else made this while doing another CBI presentation, I assume. But this takes scenes from the TV show Friends and shows examples of self-evaluation and self-monitoring. So it's kind of a fun way to see it in real life. The basic idea of self-monitoring is that it will improve social behaviors, improve academic achievement. It's very easy to use. But in order for it to be effective, students must be aware of the behavior that they're tracking, and they must record their own behavior. Some positives: the desired behavior will increase. You'll see improved performance in class. Some negatives: the students may rate their inappropriate behavior as appropriate so that they can get their reinforcement. Self-evaluation, some positives: the students assess his or her own behavior based on the criteria. The students are rewarded if he or she matches what the teacher tracks for themselves. Peers can track each other. Some negatives: this process doesn't seem to generalize in the classroom, and in the studies that we found, teachers were either unwilling or unable to track data related to self-evaluation. And then as far as self-reinforcement, according to Yale, there are 7 steps to teaching self-reinforcement. Very quickly, the 7 steps are, and these are included in the speaker notes on the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to see them. Step 1, students must be able to self-monitor and self-evaluate. Step 2, identify the target behavior. 3, pick reinforcer. 4, identify how often the student will do the target behavior. 5, create and teach the system. 6, monitor and evaluate student progress. 7, fade out. The effectiveness of self-reinforcement is unclear according to some of the empirical investigations. How does this influence our assessment and evaluation process? Well, we conduct FBAs and therefore gain information about the target behavior and the function for the behavior, and then we can include CBIs in our students' behavior intervention plans. Here's an example of an assessment. This is one that Kim uses in her school. I'm not going to go through it, but she's provided an excellent description of it in the speaker notes in the PowerPoint, so please check it out. It's a great tracking sheet for self-evaluation. Fun little graphic for you. So how teachers work with students while they're using CBI, it kind of gives students control of their own behavior. Teachers teach them how to modify their behavior. They teach self-control. They teach problem solving. And there is evidence of generalization and mastery of using CBIs in other settings. According to our text, CBIs combine traditional behavioral strategies with cognitive approaches, and it uses the principles of behavior therapy to modify the underlying cognitions. This is our lesson. It is a math lesson based on these cognitive interactions. I'm not going to go over it. Again, there's a detailed description in the speaker notes on the PowerPoint, so please look at that. This is a great math lesson. How does this affect our professional communication? Several studies have shown that using cognitive behavior therapy models were effective ways of communicating with other teachers and parents. How many times have we teachers thought, oh, nothing I try with the student is going to work. The student is beyond my help. Why bother when you're given a new intervention to try because the student is just too difficult, so what's the point? These negative thoughts can affect how we approach interventions with our students. So by utilizing a CBT model, we can recognize that these thoughts are not helpful, and we can see how we can change them. I'm just going to briefly mention this case study that a school psychologist used this CBT interventions with a mother and teacher for a student receiving SPED services. I've got some information in the PowerPoint for you to look at. Basically, in the end, the mother stated that she was much more open to her child receiving SPED services in the future, whereas in the beginning she didn't think he needed it whatsoever. Well, we have to remember that this is just a simple case study. The takeaways are important, that by changing the way we think, it changes our attitudes towards the entire case. Judith S. Beck also noted that our automatic thoughts can result in us only looking at what we perceive and not come to situations with students and others in a positive manner. So that's another argument for changing our negative thoughts to positive ones so that we can really truly be the best help that we can be for our students. Here's some examples of some negative thoughts that you can go through on your own. A couple of things to note: while CBIs can be effective for many students to reduce unwanted behavior, several studies have shown that this technique is not effective for students with ADHD. They lack the ability to self-monitor their own behaviors, and therefore several studies have shown that this is not going to be effective for them. It will be effective for them to increase self-esteem and self-worth, but as far as decreasing unwanted behaviors, this is not where you will be using with them. And there are our references. Thank you so much and have a great day.